Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and what an absolute pleasure it is to see you all again. Hello. Now, let me let me explain a few things because I'm spreading this video out to all of my channels because I think it's really important for you guys to sort of like get a little bit of a glance at sort of just the fact that it's me behind these accounts. I am the man in charge. So let's talk business, shall we? Or rather, just what I've got to say. So, I'm not going to be around the bush, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be completely upfront. I'm going to be completely honest, transparent. I am going to be everything that I set out to be. What I say isn't because I want you guys to get the right impression of me. I am going to say exactly what I feel. So, here we go. You may remember last October, I started a small video series, a small vlog series, I should say, on my main channel, where I described the fact that I was not going to be waiting around. I was going to be making the start today. The day where I begin my, almost take my adult life and take it to the next level by building myself back up. Because without wanting to go into too much detail, 2022 was it was one of those years where I sort of just felt like I tried to do something extraordinary all throughout 2021 and it ultimately came to nothing. And I spent so many months just kind of in limbo and just sort of not really sure what to do or what I could do or if there was anything I could do. And that feeling of hopelessness, that feeling of being alone and feeling as though the world is so incredibly closed off to you is a dreadful, dreadful feeling. There's no getting around it. It is a dreadful thing to happen to someone when you feel as though no matter what you try or no matter what you do, it ultimately comes to nothing because nobody cares or just nobody is bothered to listen to you. Because for the most part, the whole of I would say internet subculture, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, I would suggest those sort of places is a bit like a swap meet where you literally have one booth and it's ultimately who has the biggest booth and whoever has the most things to sell, the most things to give, those are the ones that succeed. It is basically, as you could say, as long as you can throw enough money into it, then there is nothing you cannot get without any level of quantity. You could get talented people to write your stuff. You could get talented people to do animation or After Effects or design work, illustrations, typographers. You could throw billions into this and you could come away as the top dog because things like prices and stuff like that, they set expectations. Absolutely. It's the same in the movie business. It's the same in television. It's also the same in video games as well, is that they say the money is on the screen. And for the most part, that is absolutely true. And you just need to take a look at some movies that just came out this year where you could almost get that impression, from Barbie, Oppenheimer, animated films like Teenage Kraken, the Super Mario Brothers movie. There are so many things out there where you can suggest that they put a lot of thought, a lot of stock, and also a lot of cash into this. And it has to be good because, and this is always something I feel like sometimes maybe people sometimes forget about this sort of business, is that so much goes into this. So many people have to get paid. So much work has to go into this. Everything has to reflect exactly what they're paying for. So some studios cannot afford to take risks on things that they know just don't work because other people have tried it and it didn't work. But sometimes that's fine because, some things walk so that other people may run, as they say. But while we're on this right now, I should explain what this all means really for what I'm up to, and rather what this means towards all my channels. Now, the first and perhaps the most profound thing I wanted to talk about is physically what has happened to me over these last couple of months. Now, you may be surprised to learn, ladies and gentlemen, that during the beginning of this year, so we're talking January 1st, I weighed in at 18 stone. And just to give you an idea about what has happened in 9 months, is that I went from 18 stone all the way down to 14.3 1/4. In fact, let me just showcase to you right now. Just let me get a little back view right here, just so you guys can understand. This is just what I look like from the front, and this is what I look like from the side. I mean, this is just standing normally, really, and you can see just it's almost like I almost feel almost entirely like a new man right now, because here's the thing, I lost weight very, very slowly and very, very gradually over this year, but it was only in the very last month where it happened, ladies and gentlemen. I hit the wall, and I just completely had enough of being overweight. I had enough of being physically uncomfortable in certain positions, like sitting down, for example. Sometimes I felt very uncomfortable. My clothes sometimes were either too tight or they just didn't feel right on my body and stuff like that. And sometimes even when I like talk to some people, like men or women, I would feel like I would cringe somewhat because I didn't feel okay in my own skin. And some could say that it's not necessarily an issue related to weight or size or anything like that. That could be the problem. But it could also come down to certain other things like insecurity, or just this malevolent feeling that people judge you everywhere you turn. And even when people are being earnest and just talking to you and just making conversation, you sometimes feel, what are they truly thinking about when they're talking to you? It's a vicious cycle, ladies and gentlemen, and it's one that probably I should have learned fine well to stop doing 4 years ago, because it's sort of been an issue that's been going on for a while in my life, and I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what started it. But it, as you could understand, it sort of led to a large period of myself being incredibly reclusive from the rest of the world, and it soon and the fact that I was even able to like do YouTube videos at all and get to know you guys, music, all the rest of it to the rest of the world, it felt very strange, and it didn't feel particularly like something I was fully prepared to like sell myself on the idea, because, well, the most I can be right now is just myself. And since day one, that is pretty much all I've ever tried to be, is being myself. And if people didn't like me for who I was, then that's okay too. Go watch somebody else. Because I had the attitude of, well, what exactly are you looking for then? If you're not here to, and it's a hard thing for me to get around, because I also succumbed to the idea, more peer pressure than anything else, is that you've got to display charm and charisma every single way you turn, because if you don't, you're dead. It's as simple as that. If people are being rude to you and you try, and again, through doing customer service, I would have to be, apologetic. I would have to like sort out disputes. I would have to calm everything down in a very civil and calm way. I would try and do everything just to restore order, and they would absolutely slate me for it. And I could never really because, to be honest, there would be some times where if I had it my way, I would absolutely just give them a piece of my mind. But no, that's just it's the thing you get told is not the way it's supposed to be. You can't tell people what you really feel, which, I don't know, is always something that I've really, really struggled with to this day. I don't understand why some people really are disdain from the idea of just saying it as it is and telling people what they really think. Because I'm just a liar, therefore. I'm a liar if I don't tell people what I really think, and I'm no liar. I was brought up to tell the truth, and that's how it is. It's probably even the reason why I'm even doing this video at all, because I just want to sort of let it all out a little bit about where I am, like physically and mentally and stuff like that. So that was the thing physically. It was sort of like, it was very irritable. In fact, I'll tell you how bad it actually got. And I think it probably came to light when it was during one of my last days at my old place of work, is that after work I went out on the town and just sort of enjoyed a night by myself, and I just sort of like just went for a drink and went out for a nice meal. And then I remember, like, I got into a conversation with somebody, and she was like really, really thoughtful and very, very pleasant and stuff like that. And then I don't quite remember how it happened, but we got into a conversation where basically I started off by saying something, and then I started getting into this rant about something, and I was just like, I went on and on and on and on about it, and she like literally had to like grab my shoulders and also almost like had to shake me, just telling me, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And she looked me dead in the eye, and she told me that I had an issue with self-love, that she seemed to think that I simply hated myself for some reason. And I don't know if it was just because of what I was getting into, or what really like the point of just that entire rant was. Maybe it was just because I'd finally had enough and I just had to tell anybody, and it seemed, the right time and place. But deep down, I think she might have just literally hit the nail on the head when she said, you know what, I just seem to like hate myself for some reason. And even looking back on it, I'm sort of like in the minefield of sort of, yes, but how do I fix it? There's hardly enough time in the day to like really meditate on this, because you know what, I'm a working man. I go to work, I come home from work, I spend what little free time I have doing the things that I wouldn't get in nearly enough time during the day, like going to the gym, or just spending an evening with my family watching University Challenge or Only Connect, or sleeping, or making videos, or writing videos, or editing videos, or making effects for videos, or making designs for t-shirts, or all that fun stuff. Like, there's just it is really one of those cases of there's nowhere near enough hours in the day. And the more I say that, the more but then again, there was also a period earlier this year, like when I started my new job, because my timetable for that was like thrown all over the place, and I felt like I had less hours in the day for less money, and the benefits were significantly detailed compared to my previous job. And basically, you sort of realize that what you do then has to count even more, because you have less time, and also maybe fewer resources to do the things you need to do. Well, okay, maybe that last one's not entirely true, but I set out to it. But when I speak about like less resources and stuff like that, do you guys know that the only other time this year I actually went to church was Good Friday of this year, which I believe was like early, like mid-April or something like that. And that was like, so I haven't been to mass or something for like nearly 5 months now. And I would actually kind of like to go again, but because of things with work and all that, it means that Saturday is completely out of the question. Sunday is even more problematic, and I just don't quite know what sort of mood or what sort of thing I'm going to be in when I get there, because of that sort of strange old adage where some people really do consider the idea of going to church as just a chore, as though it's something that nobody really wants to do, but they do it anyway. And life is short and precious. Why on earth we would want to like bother with things that don't add anything or take away from anything, or if you can't get anything from it? And again, this whole thing about, the Lord doesn't, want us to be miserable, but does he technically also want us to be happy anyway. Like, I had some very bizarre revelations about what I really thought about my religion as well this year, and one of those being, well, what difference does it make if I believe in it or not? Because here's the thing: knowing fine well to treat other people as you like to be treated, not stealing, not murdering, not, being adulterous and stuff like that. These aren't necessarily things that should really be tied to religion. These are just things that, for me, are absolute common sense. Because what is the sense in murdering somebody? What is the sense of treating people like arseholes? What's the difference if one person says it because that's part of what they believe in, or just do it because it's commonplace? And again, probably if it's again, but again, I just don't quite know what resources I could really turn to in terms of how do I explain to people that I have issues with it, or I can't because of other things. It's not. It's maybe, I don't know if it's like an issue with shame or an issue with being dignified enough to admit that things are nowhere near as good as I sort of envisioned them. But there's something just like not right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just there's something like missing, or maybe it's not even there's something missing, but there's something not right about it. There's something not right in how this year has gone and almost came and went, and how, despite how much I put myself, I put my heart out there, and I put myself so fervently into the front, and how much I try to recover and just forget about all the problems that happened last year. Despite how hard I've tried, I still kind of feel as if I'm absolutely going nowhere. I feel like, again, I'm stumbling at the first hurdle. I don't quite know where I'm going. I don't even know really if I have any destination point at all, because as hard as it is to admit that maybe my writing will literally come to well, no, it's not that I don't believe my writing won't come to anything, but I don't really understand how I can keep going with it and being turned away or not getting anywhere. It's the thing where, you try as hard as you can, try as hard as you will, but if you can put all the effort into the world, but people are not in our day and age. And this thing I was speaking about the movies earlier, is that you can try as hard as you like, but unless you can actually produce results, nobody is going to care. You could just take a look at things like Overwatch 2. I'm glad I've never played Overwatch 2, because I've considered it and I didn't want to play the game, because I didn't. You could just fix the problems from Overwatch 1, like new maps, new heroes, every patch, or every 3 months or something like that. Add new modes to already existing maps, like you could make, I don't know, Hanamura a hybrid map, or make it an escort map as well. You add variations to this sort of thing, or do a thing where you just add new cosmetics more regularly, make new events more accessible, give people more. If you do that, then that's fine. But then last year I heard a lot about Blizzard's lawsuits for harassment claims that absolutely disgusted me. Then I found out a lot of things about because I wanted to get into World of Warcraft really, really badly last year, but I could only really almost watch it on the sidelines in terms of storylines and characters like Kill Jaden and the Ice, the Lich King, and all sorts of things as well. You know what I mean? There's so many things I would love about these things, but the core experience, it looks like they're just trying to just turn it all. I don't understand. And that's the thing, and that's like the mood point of this. I don't understand why they've made these decisions, and I don't understand how it's designed to make the game any more fun. I don't understand how it's meant to appeal to new players when you have this much negativity. Blizzard's PR, as well as their design and practices, make even less sense than EA games. Because they don't challenge anything. They challenge what was even the point in becoming interested in video games in the first place. So getting all of those words out was like a challenge and a half, I must say. But basically, if you've got to this point of the video, so far what I've tried to exemplify is the fact that so far this year, I feel as though there's so many things in this environment that I feel like are too toxic and seem to almost push away any sort of good intention I might have had, and feeling as though the things I do feel almost superfluous because of previous experience, suggesting the idea that I could try as hard. And it's the thing as well is that maybe that's where the whole thing about like self-hate comes from, because I haven't made it, or I'm never going to make it, or am I too old now to even think of the idea that I could ever make it? Because you know what the thing about that is? So many people who go like viral and who amount like millions of subscribers and views and revenue and stuff like that, these guys are getting like younger and younger and younger. I Show Speed, and he's not even 20, has already got to 20 million subscribers. And all this, and as far as I could work out, he simps over Ronaldo, smashes things up, and sets fireworks off in his room. I could have done that, but you know what? That's just not my style. That's just not my thing. And I don't understand, like, how... Maybe we could just summarize this whole period of my life as just being, I don't understand. In fact, actually, that might work more than you might think, because now I'm at the stage where I'm like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do next. I don't understand what's going to happen if it doesn't work. I don't understand what could happen if things go from like bad to worse. I don't understand what might happen if for some reason I literally had to stop doing this because nothing worked. I also don't understand what might happen if things do work as well. And that's another strange thing I've had about this, is that what if there was a scenario in which I did like go big, or people paid more attention to this sort of thing. And again, this is no disservice to any people who like comment or come down here frequently for that sort of thing. That means the world to me. It really does. And again, it's the thing I always kind of like want to remind people of, is that I'm very grateful for the people that come here at all, because they're the sort of people that they make it possible for me thinking that it's even worth getting out of bed sometimes. But then, what happens if, again, it goes big and people pick up on everything you say? Like, I mean, you know what? You may remember like a couple of months ago, I explained, well, actually, it was roughly last year when I said how I was going to start like throwing my weight into in terms of like actually getting things published. I wanted to throw a lot of things into these series of fairy tales I was writing. But I'm almost now considering in my mind that what if I do, and these things like kick off and stuff like that, but then again, that's just being too ambitious again, because it's likely as still these things just might not pick up at all. Not because people don't want to listen to what I got to say, or my stuff is just not good, but just, again, what if people just don't care? What if people just don't care about these things, or people think I'm a freak because I put more stock into them than anyone has any other right to? But all this talk, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't exactly... It wouldn't necessarily surprise me if actually people do, and I'm just simply not reaching the right sort of people, because my sort of like demographic, the sort of people I want to appeal to, are the sort of people who like they think probably more than they speak. They take a lot of things in, and who think very ethereal in terms of they consider everything, like from place in time to who is saying it, to what about the implications and stuff like that. It's like again, I may be wearing Motorhead and stuff like that, but when I break out my Rush shirt and listen to Rush, I like to imagine that again. I'm this. If you are like a fan of Rush, or you were an astute follower of men like Lemmy or Neil Peart, that's probably the sort of thing. I imagine the sort of people I would like gravitate towards are those who like Rush, because if you like Rush, you will probably already know exactly what they are all about, and the majority of their songs as well reflect that's the attitude of Rush, because Rush were never really going to be the sort of band that were going to be rivaling the likes of Status Quo or The Who or Thin Lizzy, because they were not like that. They were a prog rock group. They were designed about being, in terms of like challenging ideas about how it's all summarized in Tom Sawyer, and how they describe people, a certain person as a modern day Tom Sawyer, whose mind is not for rent for any god or government. He is a free man, while the other is still wrapped in bondage. And it's like free. It's not so much. It isn't so much like free thinking, but it's more. You take free thinking to the next level. You make it almost a universal cult where you can think for yourself, and it's okay to be yourself, because there are so many thousands of people like you, and you put things into perspective, and you can put things into perspective that people will understand. And it's sort of been Rush's universal trait that if you know anything at all about Rush, then you also know a lot about their music and a lot about Neil Peart, and how the way, how his life went, and how it was so hard for him to get any work when he was working in London in a music store, and then he had to move back to Canada, and then he was like reading lots of Ayn Rand, and then he worked with then he got to work with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson after John Rutsey left in 75. 70, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, immediately after Rush's first album came out, and how everything changed after that, for the good and the bad times as well. Because I'm pretty sure there were lots of things in probably Rush's, because again, Rush was one of those bands where the critics were not particularly very kind to them. They sort of didn't really seem to know exactly like where Rush could like fit in that landscape in the late 70s and all throughout the 1980s. But again, those that know and those that Rush clicked with grew in numbers massively. And again, it's probably one of the best things that I think Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy ever did, is when he did that cutaway gag where the Cheeto guy is he's snorting cheese and he's listening to Tom Sawyer, and he's got Rush posters all over the place, and he screams that there was no drummer better than Neil Peart. And it was only years later when maybe Seth MacFarlane, his first concert was Rush, or he just really liked them a lot. I don't know, but maybe because I know that Rush actually did like one or two like side gags with Family Guy from then. There was one where something about Peter like not wearing the right kind of slacks when going to a Rush concert, or how they had a gag about somebody in the Nativity who just was aspiring to be young Neil Peart and stuff like that. There was even one during Rush's 2015 Clockwork Angels tour, where they literally had. I kind of want to say, I think it was like a Jewish version of the Griffin family, and I think they got Neil Peart to like play a mini Stewie, and it was a strange period, I must admit, but it was charming. It kind of worked somehow. And yeah, and then I found out Neil Peart was in Super Teen Aqua Hunger Force or whatever, where they got Neil Peart to play the drum solo of Life. That was a really interesting period, I must admit, and I kind of like didn't realize that that's again maybe those guys who made those shows, they were the ones who stood by Rush from the very beginning and stuff like that. You know, I might literally just listen to like the whole of Signals again, literally after this conversation, because I feel like I'm in the mood to listen to some Rush. I genuinely cannot believe just talking openly about them and possibly about their journey as well. Sort of has brought like new life into me somewhat, because Rush are very, very good at making you realize that despite your flaws, you should still be given a shot. Or what was it? There was something like it was a really profound quote or something like that, and I can't quite remember in which song it is. It might have possibly been 2112, where like I can't remember, but I think it was even something in the anthem, which of course was written by Ayn Rand and then Rush used for a majority in 2112, about how the individuality was like scrapped and now everybody was sort of like living together as though they were just like one collective unit. And individuality was like singled out, and you were just like they seek to destroy it. And again, maybe it's just one of those things that so many people feel like they're going through, when they feel like the world is after them and nothing they say or do is going to change people's perceptions, and the sooner we get them off the face of the earth, the better. And yet, despite all this, I've never once given up hope, nor have I ever lost, even for an instant, the sense of honor and duty that I should have all the time when I'm doing these videos, because I enjoy doing what I do a lot, and I do them because of the things I'm passionate. Earlier this year, I actually attempted to do a master's course in screenwriting for the University of Falmouth in Cornwall, and I remember when a few days after I sent off my application, I got into a conversation over the phone with I want to say their part of their administrative team, as far as, you know, people who were going to be on the course were concerned. And we got into a back and forth conversation about, why did I want to apply for this course? Did you already have a degree? What was the sort of things you were going after? Why did you want to basically, I explained about what I love to write, what I wanted to do with it. She was like, oh, so you mean like A, B, and C? And it was like really, it was one of those few times where I actually got into a conversation with somebody who actually seemed to understand exactly where I was coming from. It was that level of, like, you know, consideration, that level of understanding I felt like I'd not really had for a very long time. I was chatting with people that actually seemed to understand. And then I didn't get in. And unfortunately, and again, the lady from the administrative team, she was like not particularly very happy about the decision either, because she heard about how much that thought had gone into the things I was talking about and what I was so passionate about it and stuff like that. So part of me feels as if like just that seems like just another door that's closed, and how the prospects of really getting into this seem to be like dissipating like day after day. However, that does not mean for any one instance that I have even thought about stopping. Oh no, 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 no. If anything, it's again, it's the most remarkable contradictory statement. The ultimate oxymoron, however, is that when somebody says no to you, what they're actually saying to you is try harder. Yes, you can try harder. You can certainly do that. There was once a time in my life, ladies and gentlemen, where I thought, like, when anybody said no to you, they just did it as a means to just push you out of their mind. But nowadays, I'm going to do it to force myself into their minds even further. I want to, like, live in people's heads rent-free because of the things that I do. There's no secret behind it now, ladies and gentlemen, because I think that ship has sailed a very long time ago. Because I feel like I owe it to myself to be heard. I don't really deserve to be left behind. And so many people get left behind, ladies and gentlemen, because they're too sheepish or kind or nervous or anxious to even so much as raise their hands to say, hello, I'm here. Would you please listen to me for one moment, please? I don't want to be like that. I want to actually sort of command an air of dominance, sort of an air of, I've got something very important to say, and I want people to listen to it. Because I actually think what I've got to say is important and very profound. But again, it's one of those things where I know fine well what I've got to. It's one of my rules of politics, ladies and gentlemen. The number 2 one is you have got to have your say. You have got to let people know what you really think. And you know what I really think right now, ladies and gentlemen? Something I've kind of wanted to do for a very long time now, but now seems like the right time. And this is, it only happened a few days ago, and now we're getting to the real crutch of what this video is all about. The reason why I wanted to go through all this effort, the reason I wanted to put all of this information out there, is because I want to make movies. I've wanted to make movies for a very long time, but I felt lost. I felt like the world wouldn't be interested. I felt discouraged. I felt crushed. I felt abandoned. I felt people just look at me as just a hapless victim, but a hapless victim I was destined to be. So it was pointless to feel sorry for. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make my films. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make them. I'm gonna put them out there. I'm gonna win awards. I am going to do every single thing that I can to make sure people absolutely understand this when I tell them that I'm coming back. I'm gonna try harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder again. Because life's too short, ladies and gentlemen. If I don't do something now, that's it. Then there's no coming back from that. So, you know what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen? 2020... I'm going to set a date, ladies and gentlemen. 31st of January 2025. That's when my motion picture, this is when my debut into films is coming out. The Master of Reality, ladies and gentlemen, is ready to start. And that's what it's going to be, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm deliberately keeping this short because I'm going to animate everything about it. I'm going to be the sole animator. I'm going to take everything I've ever learned about animation. I'm going to take the fact that I fell back in love with animation again only 3 days ago. I'm going to put it all in film. And I know what you're thinking to yourself, that I have no budget, no direction, no way, and no plan. And doesn't that just scare you to death? Because I literally have no other reason to do this apart from I have to. And if I am going to put my stuff out there as well, then I've got to make it count. So once I do this, ladies and gentlemen, there will literally be no doubting any longer. There will be no resource or no reason for anyone to suspect that actually I had far more to give than anybody had ever thought to give me credit before. And that's where I'm going to start. I promise you that. Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Let the games begin.